Hey everyone, welcome to the Voyage Cast, where we explore the big questions shaping how we live, think, and connect, breaking down big ideas and practical steps to help you move forward with clarity and confidence. I'm Eddie, your host. Today, we're talking about something that's got a lot of people scratching their heads, I think rolling their eyes maybe a little, and straight up feeling disillusioned. Marriage, but more specifically the idea that marriage is a scam. One of the reasons we're talking about this today is actually to respond to some of the comments in the comments section on our Facebook page. One person said, "I'd rather go it alone than be weighed down by a bunch of idiots." Another stated, "Don't be fooled by the headlines, marriage is a scam, and falling birth rates are actually a good thing." And others point to the broad idea that marriage is just a glorified trap and most relationships are fake and a bunch of nonsense. And honestly, I get it. Those thoughts don't just come out of nowhere. They usually come from hurt, from betrayal, from seeing or experiencing relationships that were toxic, unfaithful, or flat out disappointing. But is it true? Is marriage actually a scam? Or could this narrative be pain posing as clarity? Could it be a reaction to bad marriages, not marriage itself? Well, stick with me. By the end of this episode, my hope is you might start seeing marriage not as a scam, but as something deeper and more meaningful than what most people, or at least 50% of the population, have come to believe. To start out, I want to lay this out plainly. Most people who reject marriage aren't rejecting what marriage really is. They're rejecting the wreckage of what they've seen in their lives or have lived through directly. A lot of what passes for marriage today is, not to put it lightly, but a performance. It's a couple signing paper, throwing up some filtered wedding photos and hoping that romantic chemistry and good vibes will somehow hold up the marriage when life rolls in with bills and responsibilities and children and all the inevitable conflict. When people cry out marriage is a scam, what they're describing is usually the hollow imitation, not the actual concept of marriage. Because most of us weren't taught what real covenant marriage looks like. In my clinical experience, primarily working with couples in adult relationships, it has become so clear to me that I'm convinced, thoroughly convinced, that most people have little to no idea what they're doing. And if you know me, you've heard me say this before. I mean, no disrespect. Healthy relating was simply not taught to us. And that's fair enough. This episode is brought to you by Voyage Counseling, the mothership of the Voyage Cast. Life has its ups and downs, and sometimes we all need a little help navigating the tricky parts. And that's where Voyage Counseling comes in. Our team of licensed therapists are here to provide support and guidance, helping you to gain clarity and confidence as you move forward. Whether you're working through challenges, improving your relationships, or focusing on your personal growth, Voyage Counseling offers care that's tailored to you. We're committed to making sure every step you take feels meaningful and manageable. And if you're ready to take that step, visit voyagescounseling.com to learn more or book your first session. You don't have to go it alone. And, by the way, we do take most major insurances. Part 2. What marriage actually is. Now, once you look past all the noise and expectations, you're going to find that marriage really is far from cute trends or perfectly curated Pinterest boards, which a lot of you that have been disillusioned already know this. Marriage in its truest form, however, is a covenant, a voluntary, intentional agreement to take responsibility not only for another person, but for yourself in the presence of that person. It's not about staying because it's easy or because it's all sunshine and rainbows. It's about staying because the staying itself makes you stronger. Now, does that sound appealing to everybody? Probably not. Well, because we live in a time that glorifies autonomy. But think about this for a second. If you never bind yourself to anything bigger than your own feelings, mood, or conveniences, how are you going to grow into the person you're meant to become? Because growth doesn't come from the path of least resistance. It's uncomfortable. It's messy. But man, is it worth it. Okay, I hear it already. Some of you listening might be rolling your eyes like, all right, Eddie, this sounds cool and philosophical, but what about the facts? Where's the proof that marriage is even worth it at all? Well, good question, and I've got receipts. According to the NIH and the CDC and peer-reviewed studies alike, married individuals in stable partnerships report higher life satisfaction and are less likely to experience depression, anxiety, or suicidal thoughts, which suicidal thoughts are on the rise. And we also see concurrently a decline in marriage. I'm not saying it's a correlation or causation, rather, but there is some correlation there. Physically, married people tend to live longer, have better immune systems, recover faster from illness or surgery, and experience reduced risks of heart disease and dementia. It's not just about feelings. It's about measurable, hard data. People in healthy marriages do better, period. And yes, I hear the skeptics coming through. What about the financial risks? Divorce doesn't come cheap after all. Here's what I'm going to say to that. Marriage isn't financial suicide, but immature marriages are. Studies show married people hold 4 times the net worth of single individuals. Why? Well, because shared plans, pooled resources, and long-term thinking foster financial health. If immature people rush into marriage without preparation, they're going to struggle. It's a bottom line in anything. But when you do it right, marriage doesn't destroy finances, it actually increases them, it bolsters them. Part 4. Emotional isolation isn't strength. I want to address one of the most common arguments against marriage, the whole idea that I'd rather go it alone than deal with idiots. On the surface, it sounds strong, but underneath, it's usually exhaustion, bitterness, and hurt talking. If you've only known toxic people and manipulative relationships, of course being alone absolutely feels safer. But the hard truth, if your default belief is, I'm the only one I can trust, you're building a prison, not a fortress. And yes, people are messy, flawed, and frankly, idiotic sometimes. But the miracle of a good marriage is that it becomes a place where 2 flawed humans commit to outgrowing their faults together. That's a pretty good option. Part 5. I'm not here to romanticize anything. Some marriages are toxic, and that's a fact. Some people genuinely shouldn't stay together. But those aren't the failures of marriage as an institution itself. Those are the failures of discernment, preparation, and personal responsibility. Don't throw out the entire concept because someone built it poorly. Marriage isn't a scam, but our cultural understanding of it, well, that's broken, certainly. We live in a world that worships personal freedom, but at what cost? Deep down, we're all going to face suffering in life. The question is, do we want to suffer for something that matters, or just suffer in isolation? If we want fewer broken marriages, we don't need to give up on the institution, we need to build better marriages. Ones rooted in self-awareness, patience, honest commitment, and frankly, reality. Because at the end of the day, marriage isn't about perfection. It's about 2 people saying, I'm not leaving, even when it gets hard, even when it hurts, because this is shaping me into someone wiser, stronger, and more loving. Now, I'm not talking about relationships where people are being abused and, nonsense like that. I'm talking about the regular hardships in marriage. And I want to contend strongly that it isn't a scam. It's one of the greatest risks you'll ever take. And it's one of the most refining, life-altering decisions you'll ever make. All right, well, that's it for today, and thank you so much for tuning in again to another episode of the Voyage Cast. If this episode was meaningful to you in any kind of way, please share it with your friends. Give us a 5-star review. If you hated it, do those things anyways, because I'd love to keep the conversation going so we can help educate people even further beyond the office. And if you want to support our mission of helping beyond the office, and you think we've earned it, please consider supporting us on Patreon. All the links for that are in the show notes, as well as links to other resources like our blog articles and other episodes of the Voyage Cast. All right, until next time.
Goodbye. Goodbye.